you look at meeting a team for the fifth time, are there any challenges from a coaching perspective that makes this different than a regular matchup, since it's the fifth time you've met?
It's not much different than what we experienced with Michigan State or Minnesota. I mean, you know, the positive thing is there's not a feeling out process because you pretty much know what you're going to get. So I just, you know, it's different only because it's you're playing for a championship and the stakes are higher. So you don't know how, you know, each team responds from a nerve perspective. And I think that, you know, that's the one thing that I thought our guys handled that pretty well last Saturday. And even against Michigan State, I thought that they came out strong. And that's really important, is to start fast for us, you know, not be chasing the game.
When you think about the postseason so far, the two against Michigan State and then the game last week against Minnesota, what are the traits that you feel like have worked so well that have gotten you to that point, this point?
Well, I think, you know, I think the important thing for us is that, you know, we've been playing with 2-3 freshman defensemen all year, you know, 5 freshman forwards pretty much every night. 2 of them are centermen. So once those young guys got acclimated to play without the puck on transitional defense and defensive zone coverage, things like that, I think that, you know, it's really started to show up here maybe over the last several weeks where we've been more consistent in those areas, which means, you know, that we defend well, which leads to transition the other way. And, you know, that's how we want to play the game. The big key is when you get those chances from defending well, it's nice to score a few goals. And, you know, that's where we've been a little inconsistent, is just our ability to finish in some situations.
How would you describe the importance of that freshman forward group to your team's success recently?
Well, in different ways, you know. I mean, you look at the Jacob, you know, that whole line. You know, I've never been one to put a freshman line together, but they have such good chemistry, and they play very smart, tactically good game. They execute very well. You know, everybody looks at them because I use them against the, you know, top lines from the opposing team, and it's not because I expect them to be great defensively. They're good defensively, not great. But the thing is that they possess the puck so well and they pressure the puck so well, and they're coordinated together, and they do a nice job of putting the other team's top lines in defensive situations more so than offensive situations.
And finally, for me, just in terms of that freshman group, Pavanka, he's out there for a lot of key faceoffs. He's kind of like Jake Evans was last year. It seemed like every big faceoff he's out there. Just the confidence level you've had in him over the last few months.
Well, he's always had a history of being a good faceoff guy. Probably grew up with it, you know, hanging around NHL guys, and somewhere along the line somebody taught him how to take a draw. And you know, it's a huge advantage when you have a guy that you can count on defensively in your own end for a faceoff. He's actually not quite as good in the offensive zone taking a faceoff. But he's really good in his own end, and he's good on both sides, which is kind of a rarity. Most guys are pretty good to their backhand, but he's actually better on his forehand. So that you know, that allows me to utilize him in key situations, especially this time of the year. Usually during the year, I don't, you know, use a second center as much. But when you get to the games this time of the year, it's good to have a second center on the ice, and obviously the guy you're putting out there is the second center is the guy that you want to take the draw successfully. And then, you know, we're fortunate that our guys are, you know, most of our guys are guys that have played wing before, our centermen. So if I, you know, Cal Burke hasn't played a ton of center, but if I use Jake in his role, I just move Cal to right wing for the face-off, and he knows what the responsibilities are from either position.
Jeff, what do you think some of the stuff that you took from last year with the close games that you had at the end of the season, the cardiac run, do you think that the guys who've come back have been able to impress upon the younger players, you know, how we got through that, and, you know?
I think it's more a matter of being in control emotionally, more so than, you know, how to handle, you know, playing in overtime or, you know, playing in a close game at the end of the game. You know, you hope that the young guys, you know, they've had experience, whether it be in junior hockey or even with the national program, where they've played in those situations probably before. And you hope that with experience that translates to them being able to do it at the collegiate level. But I mean the returning guys are instrumental in that area as far as having gone through that. That's an experience factor that is an advantage for us. We just don't have as many of them as we did a year ago. But the guys that the juniors and the seniors that are in the lineup and even the sophomores, they've been through that, and hopefully they're the guys on the bench or in the locker room that are keeping things under control to where nerves don't become a factor, especially during those times where there's momentum swings within a game, because there's never been a perfect hockey game. There's always adversity in every game, and that's where you have to have guys that can calm the troops when the troops are getting a little rattled.
And it's nice to have a goalie who's been through the war like that, those games last year, to be able to, they can look back and say, he's got our back. Yeah,
well, that's certainly a big advantage for us is that, Cale is the backbone of our team, and when he's calm, when he plays calm, that's when our team is at its best, because they know that if they do make a mistake that they've got that ace in the hole, and Cale's been really good since we started the playoffs. He's had a good season overall, but I think he's really been on another level here in the playoffs.
From what you've seen the last couple of weeks, I'm sure you've watched the games Penn State's played since the tournament has begun, and in the course of the last two games you had in regular season. You see them doing anything differently, or is it just, are there players that have stepped up their games that have jumped out at you since you've been watching some film of it?
Well, I think that over the season, that from the first time we played them till recently here, I think they're doing a better job defensively. I think that they're a high risk team. They play a high risk game. They pull out of the zone early. They expect that their defensemen can handle plays under pressure, that they can blow out of the zone and try to create odd man rushes, and their game's all about transition, and it's also about puck pressure. So you have to manage that puck pressure with good decisions on your own all over the ice, and then the other part of it is when you do get the puck is they're defending better now, so you have to make good decisions with the puck to break down their defensive game.
Anybody on defense stick out for them?
Well, the Holtz kid is an exceptional player. He's a good player both ways. He's good offensively and defensively.
You're excited about the fact that it sounds like the tickets they're into the sellout now. They're standing room only for the game. So,
well, that's great. That's why I like the Big Ten format. It's hard to do that in a best of three. You put all I thought last Saturday's crowd was awesome, and even our crowds against Michigan State were good, even though that was a best of three. I don't know how the crowd would have been if there had been a third game. It's hard to fill a building 3 straight days or 2 straight days sometimes. So playing a single game also kind of prepares you for the NCAA tournament if you make it. So it just gives you that environment that it should be. That's why I get disappointed, and it's hard. The playoffs always fall at the worst time of the year for hockey, in the fact that, first of all, you got spring break for a lot of schools, and you're dealing with NCAA basketball, both men and women's. So you're fighting that for the fan base. You're fighting for numbers, and with us playing a single game, I think it gives us a much better advantage to have a great environment for a big game in the way it should be.
We know how the players have to react to this single game. What's it like for the coaching staff having to go through all this? The win or go home.
Well, we've been through it enough that you just, for me, it's important for me to be calm, make sure our team is under control. I try to, when I get into games this time of the year, I kind of get into a vegetative state, to where, I'm relaying information to them that needs to be relayed and not getting them rattled. I want to make sure that they're under control, and I need to be under control. I won't have to worry too much about motivating them to play on Saturday night. If anything, I probably just have to make sure that their motivation is channeled in the right direction.
When you say that, how do you want them to think about this game, given the stakes?
I don't want, probably starting about a month ago or, maybe 6 weeks ago, our whole emphasis was about, at the first, we got away from any talk of NCAA tournament or anything like that. All our talk was about finishing in second place. And then once we accomplished that, the focus was totally on winning the next game, to get us to the semifinal, get us to the final, for the Big Ten. That's been the emphasis is to get to the Big Ten championship and win a championship. Everything else will take care of itself because that's the only thing that's on target for us right now. The only thing that matters is just focusing on, the next game.
Does the Big Ten championship feel like a bigger prize than the unmatched bid, or are they one?
Right now, it's the only thing that matters because the other thing won't exist if we don't worry about the one that is in front of us.
Coach, you touched on it a little bit earlier, just how much of an impact or how much of a factor does having home ice play in that game with this kind of magnitude?
Well, I mean, the first advantage is you have last change, and then hopefully you have the control of, the momentum of the game with your crowd, and I'm hoping it's all Notre Dame fans. Knowing Penn State, there could be some people from Pennsylvania here, but during those emotional stretches during the game, the highs and lows, in a lot of cases, your fans, your band, your student section, they all, they could create an environment that, can help us sustain momentum or to stop momentum against us. So, I think that's a true advantage. There's not much of an advantage other than that. I mean, I'd rather the comfort of being at home is not something that I relish. The fact that it's a Saturday is a good thing because we don't have school on Saturdays, so we can focus on hockey as soon as school's over on Friday afternoon. And then and that also allows us to have a normal routine that we normally would have on the road. Where we have a pregame skate, we have our pregame meal, everything's done together. Where on Fridays at home, in a lot of instances, it's all fractured and broken up just because of class schedules and guys don't have a pregame skater; they skate on their own. So it's good that it's on a Saturday, and it's also it's also going to be beneficial for us to be able to have that road type of a routine for a home game.
How important is it, especially in a game like this, how important is it just to have a quick start, kind of an aggressive start right off the bat? Just, I know last year you kind of had to work through, fighting back and having a couple comeback wins and stuff like that. How important is it once you get to this point just to be aggressive right away?
I mean, it's good to come out of the gate good. I mean, but you're playing a team that also does that really well. So that's something you have to be conscious of. You have to be conscious of, hey, you want to make sure that you're playing at a high level to start the game. But you also have to be prepared for the fact so are they. And they're a lot better first period team probably than any team we played all season long. They come out of the gate hard and strong. They did that to Ohio State last weekend. They have the ability to once they get a goal, it's like a tide that keeps coming after you. And you have to make sure that's why it's so important that that you don't get distracted with things that are outside your control, and also make sure that when something happens that isn't positive that you have the ability to stop it or turn the tide back in your direction.